Hello and welcome to the show. We are back with more of your automation creations, taking on the Italian rally stage. Now, the first vehicle to run the course today is built by Death by Numbers 21. It's called the One Talker IGT. Now, an interesting philosophy, shall we say, behind this one. Engine-wise, 5.6 litre turbocharged V12, twin turbocharged V12, up at the front. It's all-wheel drive, decent-ish size off-road tyres around the car. Only 380 horsepower from a big engine, but nearly 600 torque. So, you have an awful lot of torque going on in this vehicle compared to a lot of the cars that have run so far. There is a downside, though, to all of this. The gearbox is an automatic, and I mean a full, it's not not something I can do anything about. I just have to leave it in drive, and I will just have to deal with it. There is no ABS, at least, which I guess is something. I've got to hope that the game will put it in the right gears at the right time. Of course, with the mountain of torque, it's not as bad as, well, the turbo crazy things, but still, it's not necessarily what you want down here. However, got to make the most of it, really. It feels a little bit heavy through some of these corners, nothing terrible though. I'm going to get on the brakes nice and early. Please slow down. I think actually where the automatic gearbox might, I say, hurt us the most, but we can't really use engine braking for the slowing down, and at times it feels like it's almost stalling out when you try to get on the power and the game hasn't quite decided what gear it wants the car to be in. That wasn't too bad through the chicane, but yeah, okay, that's not something I actually really thought about. But yes, engine braking is not something that it's really wanting to do here. Now, around the big double apex corner, try not to clip any of the rocks if we can help it. Now the hairpin tyre, it's actually been a pretty decent, was up until then, fairly decent first run. I mean, it's certainly, once you end up out wide of that final hairpin, you just cannot get it back on the road at all. Final hairpin is pain, especially if things have gone slightly wrong. There's certainly no lack of get-go out of the hairpins. We got in trouble, I think it was maybe even under a 120. If things go okay, we just got it stuck on the outside in the ditch on the bumps and just couldn't bring the car back onto the road. So 21 for a first attempt. I mean, it's certainly not a terrible vehicle to drive by any stretch of the imagination. Down here, we are sadly, I think, lacking. Ultimately, we're lacking a bit of grip. I think if I'm as aggressive on the brakes as I would have to, I mean, braking isn't amazing. It's not the worst we've ever driven. However, I have to brake a fair bit early, and I have to be quite careful with this car. It feels like it's very easy for it to just keep carrying momentum into the turns. It feels like it's very, very easy for it to do. Oh, bad things, come on, stay on the road, don't clip a tree in the back of the car. That's mildly terrifying. Now, get it stopped, we'll have to chuck it into the hairpin. I mean, it's okay to chuck it into the hairpin if you've got it under control, and at least if it does start sliding around a little bit, there is enough grip for you to get away with it. It's going to run, it's a smidge wide, really don't, it just doesn't feel comfortable under brakes into a couple of these corners. As I said, it's not the worst, but it's a bit uncomfortable, a bit weird driving the car. Now, make sure we slow you down for this. Really easy to carry way too much speed. You can carry quite a lot of speed on the first part, but it's the second part that you've really got to get the car sorted out for. Now, this hairpin caused us grief last time around. Not as wide, that is much better, and on the exit we get the power down, and it's going to be a run towards the finish line. What sort of time are we going to be setting? Yeah, I mean, even with a big slowdown through there, we still are in trouble. It is a sub 120. It's down to a 19.7. Ooh, big hit after the finish line. Smashed the back of the car up on a tree. It's a sub 120, as I've said many times in this series. I say many times. A sub 120 is good going for a car. I'm not sure we've got the grip for much more than that, really. I can't. Having a big brake for that chicane on the back stretch, and even then we were running wide. It's just not got the turning to really make it work. Now, the off-road tyres are tyres we've seen lots of cars use. A couple have been fast with them. They are probably not the best for this weird dusty surface that we are driving on, but they can work. It's generally the very big off-road tyres have done the trick. Or have been good enough to compete with the medium and hard compound tyres that have generally been the slightly better option on the dust. We are around the hairpin nicely. I mean, it's a fairly at least it's a fairly predictable car, this one, which is always a nice thing to have when you've got 3 runs to get speed out of a vehicle. Predictability is a very helpful trait. So this corner here that I really do not trust this car on. Don't really trust it. It's not quite got the grip to really carry the speed through all of that. Out past the rock face we go. Now we are in a little bit of trouble heading towards this final hairpin. We are going, again, left into a right hand. We recover it, though, quite nicely, and we don't end up in the ditch on the outside. Now, we're going to have a very, very big brake. Even that bigger a brake, it's not going to be enough to get it stopped as nicely for that section as I would like. Very, very similar time. I think a couple of tenths faster. 19.6. Yeah, that's pretty much what I could do with the car. I think in that, as I said, it is a nice predictable car. We don't really have the grip in the vehicle. We can't really quite get it slowed down well enough for a few of the corners and get it turned in. And as nice as some of the very, very fast vehicles. Yeah, I mean, the engine, power and torque and whatnot was good out of the hairpins. It could get going out of that quite nicely. The automatic gearbox probably didn't help particularly. However, I think that the bigger issue, the bigger hindrance with it was grip. Like you can see, it's fairly small brakes. Yeah, grip and braking, the bigger hindrance. But there we go. We move from a rather large twin-turbo V6 engine to something with considerably smaller 2-litre turbo i4 in this particular car built by Cape Carnival. It's the Birmingham Rallycross SST. 360 horsepower going on from the fairly small engine up at the front, all-wheel drive, big turbo going on, not particularly massive tyre, I mean, I guess sort of sensible tyre widths compared to real cars, but for this series, fairly damn small tyres. Have we got decent-sized brakes? Yes, does look like we've got some pretty decent-sized brakes. Good-looking car, I mean, kind of a rally-looking vehicle, fairly mighty wing, diffuser going on at the back. Yeah, pretty decent-looking vehicle. We have got quite a lot of boost, which would suggest when you get 360 horsepower from the smaller i4s, the way you do that, most likely to have done that in automation, is with a big old turbo. And that can mean it's a little bit laggy if you get it at the wrong point in the rev range. So we're going to have to be a smidge careful. Oh, I do not have much grip in this either. That's going to be a tree. We've lost the wing. Come on, there we go. So yeah, that's that tells me what I need to know in many ways about the turbos on this. If we are in the wrong gear at the wrong time, this will have very little in the way of go about it. Does not have very much grip at all here. The turn-in isn't terrible, however, the back end is not really planted on the road. So unlike the Talker that we had run first, this has got okay turn-in. Talker understeered a lot, however, this is a lot more prone to moving around, especially if you keep your foot buried and it's on the boost. It's a lot more prone to moving around, whereas at least the Talker did stay planted. It just struggles to actually get turned into a corner. I mean, considering it took a fair old whack, it's actually not driving too terribly down here. Handbrake does work. Oh, okay, so second gear. I did actually try to put it down to first. I guess I was just a little too fast, and the downshift protection thing stopped me from doing that. Or fourth gear, and definitely not down there. Right, we're going to have to watch out for the gearbox. We're really going to have to watch out for the gearbox down there. 26.5, not a particularly comparable run, having had a big crash. We're going to have to, make sure we're in the right gear at the right times at all times, otherwise there will be absolutely no go. And we're going to have to be careful with the back end moving around in a few corners because it will not stick to the road as much as you would like. Well, first run is often a learning experience. Don't chuck the car in too fast through all of this. That's where things went wrong. Now, easy does it. There we go. Unfortunately, cars like the tinfoil and the very, very fast vehicles have been able to take more speed through these corners, had more acceleration out the other side. We only just got stopped for the hairpin. And this, it can't really beat the fastest cars with any particular aspect. It's not completely terrible. It's just very fiddly to get it get it right. Got to be in the right gear at the right time, and if we are, and there's a corner, we often get incredibly sideways. You just can't carry speed. There's just not the grip to carry speed in this car very well. Acceleration is okay, but it's not on par with the likes of the tinfoil. We're going to have another car going left into a right-hand hairpin. I was trying desperately to keep it out of the ditch, and then we get flung back across the other side. This is still not a particularly great run. We have got it slowed for the chicane, though. What is it going to be? It's a 120.8. Better. It might be able to go sub 20. It's one of those cars. If I can get it, if I can hold the damn thing together, which is easier said than done, we might be able to get it into a sub 120. But it isn't going to be an easy one to get into a sub 120. We actually managed to shatter a whole bunch of stuff at the back of the car. Yep, that's that's a little poorly. Right, one more go. One more go with this. Let's not end up pointing, preferably not pointing the wrong way into hairpins would be a good idea. I can't really guarantee that, but we'll give it a try. Can we flick it down through this first corner? There we go. Yeah, the handbrake is mostly working. It's not the most effective handbrake we've had on a car in this game, but it's better than some. We will slide our way now. I'll get away with a little bit of a slide through there, but I've got to sort it out for this tightening part of the corner on the exit. There we go. Now, oh, that's going to be trouble, I fear. Come on, get turned, you bugger. Yeah, they tried. It very nearly tried to fall off the course there. Don't clip the rock face on the inside. Nice and early on the brakes. Make sure we get it composed through all of this. It's on edge is what this car is. It's very, very lively is the way I'm going to describe it. It just moves. It's moving around a lot. You're constantly having to correct it. The car's never really settled in anything it's doing down here. It's never really happy. Not quite. I'm not quite sure what causes that. It doesn't look like it's wobbling around on the suspension quite so much, but it doesn't ever really feel particularly happy down here. There we go. It's a punch out of the chicane towards the finish line. It's a better time. It's a 19.3. We did the sub 20 that we were kind of looking for. 19.4 actually. It was a good sub 20 as well. It wasn't just a sneak under, but it is tough to drive. It is tough to drive. It is pretty much on the limit of grip almost constantly. It's doing something at all times, which is an eventful drive, not a calm drive, I think is the safest way to put it. Up next, we have got something rather interesting. Built by Sir Waffle. This is the Waffle Motors Keibox V8R. Yes, this has got a V8 engine in a teeny tiny little box. It is a rather small V8 though. A 1 litre turbocharged V8 up at the front. Absolutely massive off-road tyres all round. The vehicle's all-wheel drive. 156 horsepower is being produced by this. However, the vehicle is not only incredibly short wheelbase, it's very light, less than 700 kilos. So, power-to-weight ratio is pretty good, and being so light might actually help the vehicle out. Oh, it's also a rather high revving V8. It goes to 12,000 RPM. But yeah, being so light makes things easier for the brakes, and it just changes, well, it's changing direction much better than just about everything else we have had today. The engine, despite being, you know, a very small engine with a big old turbo on it, lag, not too much of a problem here. It's probably not the craziest turbo setup imaginable. We are going to punch our way down here. Yeah, it is moving around quite alarmingly. On the suspension, the handbrake doesn't work in the slightest, so we can forget even bothering using that. Yeah, it's wobbling around, it's very, very top-heavy around here. The grip, though, is very, very good from this. Geez, the brakes are phenomenal as well. So, we can get stopped nicely. We can carry a lot of quarter speed. This, I mean, on the surface of it does look like a little bit of a silly vehicle. This could genuinely be very fun. It feels like a very quick vehicle to drive down here. If you get everything right, it feels like it's going to be a... Whoa, don't fall over! Almost. We turned it a bit too much there. I instinctively went to do the normal... I say the normal line, but I instinctively tried to get the handbrake going and everything, and it just doesn't work there. You can't do it. You could probably be flat through that as well. Okay, it's a bit of a scruffy first run. That was a bit of a learning curve there. It's an 18.2 for the Keibox. I mean, this feels like it's got some serious potential. This feels like it's got... I don't know whether it's got enough potential to beat the... I don't know whether it can do beat the tinfoil. That's a lot of time we would need to find from this. It could scare the sunburst. If I get everything right with this car, we could genuinely see it scare the sunburst, I think, because there is so much grip going on here. And the acceleration for only 100 and whatnot horsepower is very good. You know, it only really needs to get to 60 or 70. We never go any higher than that. It might not be the best aerodynamic shape for a vehicle. Again, doesn't matter. We're not going to be going up to high speeds here. It is, it's just got to make its way down the course. Carry speed through the hairpins. There we go. Yeah, not having a working handbrake at all is a little bit of a shame for some of this. Can I be flat? I probably can. That was still a little bit of a confidence lift from me. I think the van is capable of doing it flat through there. I just know that if you do, you're going to end up in the trees. In fact, it's really weird being able to brake so late in this. It doesn't compute almost compared to just about everything else we've driven around here. You can be so aggressive with the brakes. Around the hairpin we go. This time, less bobbling, less going up onto two wheels. We should be flat through this back chicane, or certainly close to it. Yeah, we'll be flat through that. Got to be careful bouncing across that grass on the inside. Could roll it. Oh, we're into the 14s. We're into a 14.46 from the K-van. That's a 1 litre, 150 horsepower van has done a 114, and I can't remember whether that's quicker than the tin foil. Yes, it is. I've just got it checked. Beaten the tin foil. We have a new leader. Can it go any faster than that? I mean, oh, it's either. I think it's going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to go very quick, or it's going to end up upside down. I feel like that's quite possible if you try and drive this too aggressively. It's just a combination of things in this that make it work so well. There is that turning is incredible. The brakes are probably the best we've had on anything at getting it slowed down. Now that's a combination, of course, of good brakes, but also because it is so very light. It is a little scary at places. I'm trying not to focus too much on the wobbling. It moves around a lot. It doesn't feel like that gives it too much grief, but it does move around quite a lot on the suspension. We haven't quite got horrible weight transfer. I should actually short shift a little bit accidentally there. That is not so clever of me. Now be brave under brakes into here. There we go. It is nicely done through that section. Now again, we can be aggressive with the van. It'll carry the speed on turning. And this is what I was saying about the very wide off-road tyres. They're big enough, they can still work on a vehicle. Get it turned for the hairpin. It's perhaps where it suffers a tiny bit getting turned in there, especially without being able to use a handbrake help or anything. As we howl our way through the back chicane, throw the vehicle at the course. It's going even quicker. It's into the 13s. 113.82 from the van. After that first run, I thought it was going to be fast. I'll be honest, did not think it was going to be that fast. That is incredible stuff. That is incredible stuff. And it's easy to drive it that quickly. It looks sketchy. It looks sketchy as anything watching it go down the course. But the 1 litre V8 powered van goes fastest at a 13.8. That is a monstrous run from the vehicle. Hell of a build to get this sort of thing going as quick as that down a rally stage. Well, the rather unenviable task of following the Waffle Motors van is going to fall to Adman with the Adman Mach 2 RC. 2.4 litre turbocharged flat 6 up at the front, all-wheel drive, 240 horsepower going on in this. We've got off-road tyres around it, not the biggest, not as big as the vans. I've just noticed the more concerning thing is the brakes are tiny. The brakes are absolutely tiny. That's not a good sign. I suspect we are not going to stop when we get to a call. The gearbox is quite lazy. It takes quite a long time to shift. I feel like that's longer than a normal manual. Maybe it is just that's how long the normal manual boxes take, which is used to the sequential stuff. But either way, that's yeah, going to be quite a fiddly box. Oh, there is no slowing down in this, and there is absolutely no front end grip. Can we get through this corner? Just about, but it's with an awful lot of understeer going on. And panic, handbrake it. That just about worked. First was pretty much buzzing the limiter. I fear second we would have just stalled out with no power. Don't know quite what gear is going to be the best through there. And then, like, when it does buzz the limiter, oh, I can't stop. There's an alarming lack of grip going on here. There is a really alarming lack of front-end grip. Yes, it doesn't help that it's just followed an incredibly fast, grippy car. However, I mean, we are really struggling. I'm braking in almost the normal points for cars, and this isn't exactly going record fast into braking zones, and it's just not getting slowed down. All the corners, neither of us are getting turned in. Hairpin, oh, it's, yeah, I mean, the steering's now buckled. That doesn't help matters in the slightest. If I don't touch the steering, we pull quite badly to the left. Well, it's not exactly going to be a great first run. Can we be flat just about through the back chicane, although the gear shift, I kind of also want to just leave it in fourth, buzzing the limiter through there. It couldn't get back accelerating on the exit. Terrible first run. Jeez, the chilliness going. I feel like the car is maybe made of a combination of jelly, cheese, and cardboard. It's somehow cobbled together. It would explain the handling going on from it. Definitely the brakes are made of cheese. Here we go. Attempt number 2 with the vehicle. Can we get some more speed out of the car? We're going to have to be super early on the brakes. It does have a working handbrake, which is something, at least. We can kind of chuck it around a little bit on that. I mean, I don't want to do it too much, because I don't exactly trust the car in the slightest here. But I guess we can use it a touch. Certainly the hairpins, it'll help what is a car that's already struggling a bit. Come on. Make it around these long corners. It doesn't really enjoy. I just can't carry any speed, and then we've got to start doing the panic and brake, chuck it in on the handbrake a little bit there. Oh, we just don't. There, we just cannot get there. Can't get it on the power. Get it out the other side. We'll be flat. I mean, we can at least be flat in a couple of places, which I'm slightly surprised by. Yeah, that's the first time I've ever had to panic and grab the handbrake because we were going towards the... I feel like the handbrake almost is more useful than the regular brakes in this car sometimes. It was heading towards trouble if I hadn't gone for it. We are... I mean, that's almost a spot-on line through there. Very slow, but it was a spot-on line at least, which is something. And now panic grab the handbrake. Oh, yeah. The combination of turbo lag, gears, and the amount of time it takes for it to change gear means that if you aren't quite right with your wheel spin or whatnot, it just doesn't really want to go. It's a 24.2 from the car, which is something... Oh, I wondered if I could jump the fence. Okay, I did try and jump the fence that time. Or we've twisted the entire chassis off of that wall. It's a better run. It's a better run, a 24.2 from the car. Could I get this into a 23? I think a 23 is going to be really pushing it. I think it's going to be a difficult run to obtain. I'll have to be that smidge braver without having overdriven it somewhere, which is the brakes on this thing quite difficult. It's quite difficult to figure out just when you've gone in a smidge too deep, like here for example. Has that worked? Just about. Now we've got to wait. Well, we'll sit on the 50's way too fast through there. That was another tap the handbrake and hope for the very best. I thought that was in the tree. I really thought that was a goner then. Oh, please stop, car. Come on, get out the hairpin. There we go. It's hard work. It's very hard work getting this around the course. I mean, it's not quite as slow as I thought it might be in terms of, you know, even if we don't improve on a 24, there have been slower vehicles. This does feel like it struggles immensely down here. As I said, I think that's part of the difficulty of following such a very fast car. However, he's a handful. He's trying to get this in a happy place on this course is much easier said than done. Come on, second. Go. Out the hairpin. We just about make it. It's been a fairly neat run so far, as neat as I could really expect with the car. I always turned in too soon and missed the checkpoint, so I had to have a sort of second go at it. What is it going to be? About the same. About the same with the car, 24.19 in the end. Yeah, that's uncooperative. And we've now got a lovely skid along the door. In fact, I think it is balanced almost... Oh, no, now I'm going to go over the roll. Never mind, I spoke too soon. I thought it was balanced, just to skid along the road on its side. It wasn't. It's going to go for a bit of a tumble. It might come back down, I suppose. Either way, that's a tough thing. That's a very, very tough thing to get the speed out of. It's just a bit uncooperative all the way down. But in the end, we at least set, I think, about as good a run as I could have got with the vehicle. So, on to our leaderboard, and we have a new fastest time. The Keibox will go into first with 1:13.8. It's almost a second quicker than the Tinfoil RS. It's over a second faster than the Nordic Wolf, the Sunburst, and so on. That's a crazy fast time. Remember, that car has 160 horsepower. It's going up against 500-600 horsepower vehicles, but it can use it better, can get around the corners better, and it is the current leader in this series. It pushes the Sunburst out of the top 3 as well now. We have to go a little bit further down. It's not too far down. This is the very crowded area of the table around the 1:20 mark to find the Birmingham. That'll go into a 20th position with a 19.4, fractions faster than the TM's motor. It loses out slightly to the Titan RS. The other one talker that is down in 23rd place with a 19.6. Beats the trophy, beats the cathode rally. It does beat the rear-wheel drive W90. I mean, both of them were pretty solid cars. You know, both of them were pretty good vehicles. Kind of gained speed in different ways, but respectable nonetheless. As I said, sub 120, pretty damn good going. You can see this in pretty crowded parts. Sadly, the Adman is all the way down the table. It struggled. It really did. I really struggled to get that through the course. It'll go into a 39th position. No, it's not the slowest car. It's not the slowest of the all-wheel drive cars either. It does get beaten by the Spoon, the rear-wheel drive Spoon, up in 35th place. Yeah, I did what I could with that, a 24.1 in the end. About all the speed I could manage to get. I'm pretty pleased with the final run with that car. It just didn't have the brakes, didn't have the grip to be able to go all that fast. That, though, is going to be it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.